What's up, YouTube? BigSweetC here with you. Got a special little video for you today. Today, I want to talk more about The Last of Us 2. Now, I've been very honest about my dislike of the story of this game. I have also been pretty upfront with the fact that I still enjoy playing the game. Today's video, I kind of wanted to expand on that a little bit, having taken some time off and now have gone back and we've been playing it. We've been trying to do a permadeath run, and we finally got right back to where I died on the first attempt. I mean, not right back there. We're almost there. We're in that same little spot. We're about 10 minutes away before I get to that spot, but pretty close to the same. Either way, I kind of wanted to revamp my thinking on this. Now, I did not like the story. I still don't think it's a great story. But having gone back and played it with a set of fresh eyes, having talked with some other people about the game, having read some of your comments on the previous videos that I did on The Last of Us 2, I do want to say that my perception has changed. Do I think it's one of the best games of the year? I think I actually do. It is one of the ones that I have consistently thought about, regardless of whether I've been playing it or not. The only other game I can say that's come out this year that I've been thinking about that, like that, is Final Fantasy VII Remake. And so, these two games, in my opinion, were the goldmine games of this year. And while I didn't appreciate the story, I can understand where they were coming from. And I can appreciate the attempt at something different. I still wouldn't have done it this way. I still think Neil Druckmann needed somebody to go, no, I don't think this is a good idea. Whether they did that and he just overrid him, or whether there wasn't that collective idea overall. But that's why you need a no man. You know, everybody talks about the yes man, the guys who just sit there and they say, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, great idea, love it, love it. You also need that friend that's gonna go, that's a fucking terrible idea. And that's what Neil Druckmann needed on this. But the gameplay is fantastic, the scenery is fantastic. Going back through it and following this story, you pick up on things that you didn't pick up on originally. Coming from it from an outside perspective, you do see a lot more perspectives through character actions and whatnot. And now I have a friend that says that it had to be this way. I don't necessarily agree with that. I kind of think it could have gone completely different. I think you could have had a completely different story to show that Ellie's not the only one that's immune to this disease if you wanted to. But that's neither here nor there. The truth of the matter is it's still a really fun game to play. And I will sit there, and we played it for like 4 hours the other day. It felt like 20 minutes because it was generally exciting. There were moments where I almost died and it was really gripping. There were moments where it was like, all right, okay, I kind of get why she's saying this at this time. Now maybe a lot of it was with voice actors. You don't get that same kind of like being in the room feel of awkwardness or tension that you would between like a real life actor. Maybe it was just Neil Druckmann thinking that he's a better writer than he actually is. Regardless of what it was, you see it that second time, whereas you don't feel it like you should. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it's still enjoyable, if that makes sense. There are certain games where you're supposed to feel emotion. I was talking about this in the last video, where Dark Souls 2 puts the player in that immersive struggle, just like your character in the game. And I think that's kind of what they were going for more than anything with The Last of Us 2, is kind of putting you in that dichotomy of Abby and Ellie. So I was saying, you know, Ellie seems to go on this hell-bent revenge story, and I do generally still think that that's kind of her main motivation, is to get revenge. But I think it's probably more than that now too. You know, like I think, and I didn't pick up on this the first time that we played through it, but I kind of think Ellie has to prove to herself that she doesn't need Joel. And so I think she's come to the realization that she thought she was special in the first one. She thought that her blood being immune to the disease or the infection, or I off the top of my head I can't remember what they call it, but I have a feeling she felt that that made her special. And because of that specialness, she might have been more fragile and needed Joel to protect her. Well, now she thinks that she's not special, and now she needs to prove to herself that she doesn't need to be taken care of. And the way she can do that is by going out and rescuing Joel, or getting revenge on Abby, or just getting away from society in general. Because you see it all in the middle. So you've got the bigot who doesn't like the fact that her and Dina kissed that one night at the dance party, but instead of Ellie getting to say, no, you don't get to hate on me because of this, it was Joel that punched homie in the face. And so she's not mad at the bigot. She's mad at this idea that this faux dad needs to protect her. And I think her quest, her inner quest more, is her proving to herself that she doesn't need that help, that she can do this on her own, that she is special, even though it's not her blood that makes her special. And I did not pick up on that on the first playthrough. It did not come across that way, and that might be because you play as Abby a lot. Whereas I think Abby is kind of the same way. She needs to prove to herself that she hasn't been training her whole life to get revenge for nothing. She's a little bit more psychotic than Ellie is, you know, although they have moments of psychosis both. You've got Ellie who, when she finds Nora, I think is the black girl's name, she finds Nora, and you have that scene where it just gets redder and redder as she's just beating this girl to death. You have the scene with Abby and Joel where she's literally beating Joel with this golf club, and she's just relentless about it. So I think they do have this similarity in psychosis. Now, I don't think Ellie's is nearly as bad as like Abby's, but I think the dichotomy is you have these two people with completely different backgrounds, and they still have this need to prove to themselves who they are. And not seeing it last time makes me appreciate it more this time. Again, there are still things that I would do, but it is a fascinating little moment that you have. But it's kind of hard to see when you're playing it for the first time and you're trying to experience it. It does not come across the same way the first time as it has the second. So I highly encourage you, if you didn't like it the first time, go back and play it again, because it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. It is probably going to be nominated for Best Game of the Year. Whether it wins or not, I don't know. We haven't seen Cyberpunk 2077. I still think Final Fantasy VII Remake is a little bit better, and there's been some speculation that a bunch of really cool stuff was cut for that game. Maybe we'll get some DLC, I don't know. But I do generally think The Last of Us 2 will probably be one of the top 5 best games of the year. In my opinion, it's probably 1B. I'd put FF7 Remake at 1A, Last of Us 2 at 1B. I would not be upset if either of those won. Like I said, I haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 yet because it hasn't been released. I don't think I'm going to get to it by the end of the year. But there's literally been nothing else that's come out this year that I think even has a chance to compare to The Last of Us 2. And I know there's been a bunch of stuff. Ori and the Wisps came out, which I didn't play. I know a lot of you guys like that. But I don't think there's been a game that gives you so much polarization and yet still has so much replay value like you would The Last of Us 2. And I'll be the first to admit that I shouldn't have let my inner feelings get in the way of ruining that first playthrough, which it didn't ruin it. It was still fun to play because I generally like the gameplay on it. But I'm glad I went back and replayed it because it's let me go into it with a more open mind, a little bit less, I don't want to say concentration, but a little less bias towards the characters. And it's generally been way more enjoyable this second time than the first. And so I think everybody would get that same opinion. Now, obviously, there's going to be that group out there that's, just hates on the game because it hates on the game. There's the Play It Hate Us Club. You know what I mean? There's a reason there's a ball every year to celebrate it. So there's just going to be that crowd that just hates it. But I will be the first to admit that I was wrong, and this game is fantastic. And I highly encourage you to check it out if you haven't yet. And I highly encourage Naughty Dog to come out with the multiplayer. I still don't think you can get away with charging people for it. I still think you have to give it away for free to make sure everybody gets on board with it. But I generally think that this is a good game, whereas I didn't the first time we played. And I'll be the first to admit that I was wrong. And it's not going to be the last time. It's not going to be the last time that I'm wrong on a game. But I'll be the first to admit that I was wrong, and I was wrong about The Last of Us 2. Either way, do me that favor, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell next to it so you know when I do drop a new video or go live. If you didn't like the video, hit that like button anyway, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, and then drop a comment as to why I'm full of poo-poo. And let me know why so we can continue this discussion. Either way, that's going to do it for this one. BigSweetC, that's me. Wishing YouTube, that's you. Wonderful day, night, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it might be. As long as you're watching, I'm wishing you a wonderful watching time. Sweetness, signing off. Peace.